Hi, thank you for Daniel's group and Youth Proyecto for inviting me here again, and I'm glad to be a part of your Youth Leadership Academy. So, I will be talking about proposal writing. So, proposal writing is one of the most important thing if you're organizing as a youth group because we all understand that the resources of youth organizations are very limited. So, it's important to partner with, especially with other groups or getting your funder. So, what is a proposal? This is a planned or suggestion on a something as a action to a problem or issue that you have identified in your community. So, it's very important for youth organizations like you guys to write proposals because you are in the ground and you've seen the issues right in front of you, and people who have the capacity to help you out, especially financially or in kind resources, to know this information from you guys. So before we move forward, I usually start with asking myself three important questions. That is, first, is it urgent? So you need to know or you need to realize if the issue that you are trying to answer is urgent. It creates some source of urgency for people to pay attention to what you're doing. The second one is it feasible? Is it something that can be done? Is it achievable? So it's important because we may all think of grand things. However, we may fail to make it happen. So it's just a um, lost opportunities and a loss of resources. And the third one is, who is the funder? It's important to know who will be your funder, who will be your partners, because you need to subscribe and give what they are looking for. There are some organizations are focused with environment. You cannot submit anything about child rights on an environmental group. You need to make it a parallel. You need to meet with their needs. And there you can start thinking that, oh, maybe I can put this together. So, moving on, the first thing that usually is in a proposal is identifying the problem or the issues. Like I mentioned, these are the things that you have seen in the communities or in the situation or in societies that you think needs to be addressed. So there are some uh, big issues and there are some very specialized one. You need to choose whatever is your advocacy, but you just need to make sure that you are laser point on the root cause. Usually what I see with proposals is that they present the effect of a root cause. Right, for example, is out of school youth. They say it's an issue, they say it's a problem, but it's not an issue or a problem. It is, in fact, an effect of a deep rooted cause. That is, let's say, maybe poverty. Maybe the child cannot go to school anymore because they don't have money, or the child cannot go to school because uh, her or his family is addicted to drugs. There are a lot of root causes for being an out of school youth, and you need to identify that because that's where your actions will be based. Second one is that from the issues or the problems, where do you want to bring the situation or the community? You need to have a vision, something that we all dreamed of. It doesn't need to be a utopia, it doesn't need to be a perfect world, but at least a better and sustainable world where we could all thrive. You need to state that. The next one is that you need to have your objectives. It's important because it will lead you to creating your activities. But before you move forward to activities, you need to make sure that your objectives is SMART. We all familiar with SMART? SMART is it's simple, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, and time bound. You need to have SMART objectives in order to plan out your project. Because if not, then it's very impossible to see where you've gone through and where you want to bring your project. It usually leads to burnout if you don't follow on, especially on the time bound projects. You cannot forever implement a project. It needs to have a start and an exit. Objectives needs to have at least three things. You need to state who are the people that you are going to work with, the reach, and what are the methods that you are going to do in order to achieve the objectives. And lastly is the change or the theory of change. How do we see things after? To identify what kind of activities you will be doing for your project timeline is you need to put it side by side with your objectives. For example, your objective is to have kids stay in school. So, in order for you to put kids and make them stay in school, what would be your activities? So, but you don't have to write 10 or 15. All you need to do is delimit into something that is A, achievable. The next one that you need to consider is that M and E. So don't get overwhelmed. Monitoring and evaluation is just a way for you to make sure that you are looking at every process in your implementation. And at the end of it, you can say that you were able to achieve your objectives. There are a lot of ways, there are a lot of tools that you can use as a monitoring and evaluation. Um, One, you can use feedback forms, you can use pre-test and post-test to see the theory of change, and you can also do for forum group discussion. It's important to have this so that maybe if your project that you wrote in your proposal is effective, you might as well revisit this when you want to replicate this project in other society, community, or situation. The last one is cost or the budget. So most of the time, people who does not pay attention to this has their projects disregarded. You need to make sure that you know your funder, like I mentioned earlier. In your budget proposal, you need to know what are the things that the funder are willing to pay for. Um, you need to understand what the partners can deliver, not in monetary terms. You need to make as well be familiar, be on the things that are not covered by their focus. So you need to make sure that your cost and budget are responsive to the needs or to the requirements of the funder. You also need to make sure that these are written carefully and researched with the real cost. Sometimes funders thinks that you're just bloating the project and it's not really what you aim to do. So it's important to do your best in making it as transparent as much as possible. What's one thing that you should also consider while writing the proposal is that you need to make sure that your tone and language are right. First one is that your jargon. I know that it's cool to sound really smart, but sometimes if you use all these highfalutin terms and your reader or your funder or the partners don't understand a thing, imagine that the people that will be reading your proposal is from different discipline. So you cannot be using one jargon that is only based with one discipline or industry. because you will not be understood. Please make sure that you always check your grammar, ask for someone to read it twice or thrice so that the funders will know that, yeah, you are prepared for it. You need to make sure that your tone is in third party, a third person, I mean. It creates a very pleasant and professional tone. And of course, most importantly, if you know your funders, you know exactly what key terms that they are looking for. Key terms are words. These are keywords that they will be looking at in your proposal. These are usually seen in their call for proposals. If there are no call for proposals and you're just submitting it to them, you need to at least know their mission and vision so that you can adopt their kind of language. So pretty much it's how you write your proposal. So make sure that if there is a template, you should have a copy for it. If there's none, you can always search the internet for templates. The easier, the more concise, the better. Remember that these people who are going to read your proposal are busy. They don't really want to read a 50-page proposal. It needs to be short, concise, and direct. You need to practice this whole idea of your project. Practice in a pitch. Get a third person who wasn't there in the brainstorming and see if a third person who wasn't involved in putting this together understand what you want to do. With that, you will be able to foolproof your proposal if it is simple, measurable, actionable, realistic, or time bound. It needs to be clear, it needs to be doable, and this needs to be responsive to what the partners are looking for. So I'm inviting you now. Why don't we go ahead and practice a project idea that you have? Remember, it needs to be smart.